story of a young boy in the page we in. Say that he off chasing fame again, and there he goes. Almost famous, bitch, yeah, kills.
Alrighty, folks, welcome back to the program. Reoccurring guest, the super agent, Drew Shore. What's up, baby?
How we doing, baby? Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, it's good to see you. And obviously that game last night. First of all, where are you at right now? Are you in Nevada? You in Sin City?
I am in the chin of Las Vegas, Nevada, from the Aria Sky Suites. I actually cannot wait to get out of here. I've been here for about 3 days. I cannot wait to get home, flying home in a couple hours. But it's been a good trip.
Yeah, you got to get out of there. I mean, what have you been there for 3 days? It's kind of like a 48-hour mission town at this point, dude. It's like you got to get out. You know when you start walking around the hotel and you're just annoyed because it takes so long to get to your room in Vegas? It's just a sideshow. It's like, can I just go up to my room? What I have to weave all around this casino, find this random elevator? And it's like, even when you're sober, it's actually hard to find.
Yeah, I actually think it's more of a 24-hour place for me now. But like I said, it's the weather here is so nice, though. I didn't think the pool would be open like in the middle of February, and people are hanging out at the pool. It's been great.
They got the wet decks open, you're saying?
Yeah, the wet decks are open.
That is so nice. Do you tee it up at all, or is it strictly business?
Strictly business. I'm actually was kind of sad. I interviewed Sheldon Surrey, whose job he's an ambassador for the Discoveryland properties. So they have that Summit Club here, which I've actually played before. Is one of the sickest golf experiences I've kind of been to, and I turned it down. So we are just here for business, but I'm gonna have to take a rain check on that.
Yeah, you should have teed it up there. You interviewed what, like 3 or 4 guys, just kind of in and out like a fiddler's elbow, get a couple workouts in, hit the wet deck, and I'm out?
Yeah, exactly. I have a good setup here at the Aria where basically we just turn one of the rooms into kind of a studio, keep it for 2-3 days, and try and crank out as many as we can.
Yeah, what does Future say? Turn the 5-star hotel into a trap house, baby. I like it. That's what you got to do. That's what you got to do. Hey, what'd you think of that game last night? First off, where'd you watch it at? Were you just in your room? Did you slide to a bar? Were you watching it at the Chandelier Bar? Like, talk to me on that front, baby.
I watched it by myself from the bar of Catch, had myself a nice dinner. Obviously, disappointing result. I thought the Americans were going to get done, but man, what a hockey game. I mean, that was amazing. And I mean, we've talked about it a little bit off air, but I mean, I had so many people who didn't even kind of know that there was a tournament going on, who by the end of it were locked in watching every play, texting me about it. So it was super cool to just see how many non-hockey people got involved with the tournament.
It was cool, and you saw the non-traditional hockey fans tapping in. Obviously, AB, my boy that I don't know. Shout out to CT ESPN. Still looking for that link up with Hockey Night in Scottsdale and AB. But you had like AB. You had all these non-traditional hockey fans, people that were, strictly tied to the NBA or the NFL, watching this game, and I feel like they thought it was almost like 1980 vibes, Miracle on Ice. Like it wasn't that Shoresy, but didn't it have that feel of like the biggest game in the last at least 10 years.
Yes, certainly. And I mean, I was kind of on the opinion too, before the tournament started, is like, how much are these guys going to care? Right. I mean, if you're a guy like Sidney Crosby, who's won multiple Stanley Cups, Olympic gold medals, how much are you going to care? I mean, they kind of showed right from game one of the tournament that it wasn't going to be just an all-star game. And I mean, I think that, what a start to that Saturday night game too. Like when the Tkachuk brothers started, I think that got so many people involved too. And it was just so great for the tournament as well.
Yeah, and I want to get to Montreal in a bit just because I missed that city so much. I forgot how good of a city that was, and especially if you're a single guy. Holy trim. But let's talk on the Tkachuk brothers. Let's talk on those guys. Shoresy, I think these guys are now the most marketable guys in the NHL. Is it time to see these guys do something like the Kelsey brothers? I've talked about it before. These guys need to link up for a podcast. Maybe they need to start sliding on Pat McAfee more. But these are the guys I think we run with. And let's start with Brady. I think Brady, not only for hockey, but for himself, if we got Brady, as in hockey fans, to a bigger market, say a New York or Chicago, don't you think that'd be so much better for the league? Like these guys, they're the most notable American hockey players right now in the last, since like Showtime was winning cups in Chicago.
Yeah, they're a little bit younger than me. Some of my brothers played with them, and my dad knows their dad, and they've kind of just been like, they've had this reputation their whole career of just being the best guys, even away from the rink. And I think that watching kind of what Matthew was able to do in the playoffs last year, and kind of how, you can kind of make an argument that he kind of changed that Florida organization around when they made that trade.
For sure.
And I mean, yeah, it kind of sucks for the game of hockey that's where Brady is currently playing.
Right.
I mean, he needs to be in a big market. I think that having them do something Kelsey brothers like would be very smart and would be entertaining.
Yeah, I just think there's such a likable family first, but then you throw that like WWE aspect they have, like literally, one brother fights off the draw. I was sitting there at center ice. I'm like, oh my God, I think Matthew's going. And I'm sitting there with Obes and Uppy. They're like, fuck off, Swish. They're not fighting. I'm like, no, I think they just had a conversation. Hagel and Matty Tkachuk, sure as shit, they shed their laundry. And then, 2 seconds later, whatever it was, Brady's throwing down. They're dapping each other up in the box. It's like these guys are like living life Bash Brothers. It's like, I don't know. I just think if you got Brady somewhere like a bigger market, like it could just explode and it could be so good for hockey. Like, let's get rid of escrow. That's how you do it, Shorzy.
I thought like them dabbing up each other in the box and asking each other how both fights looked, I thought was the best part of the whole thing.
Yes.
I thought that was amazing. And then, yeah, one thing that's kind of interesting is I don't know what injury he had, but a lot of people texted me if Matthew should have played in the game last night, which is easy to say now. They lost the game. He couldn't go for, I think, the second half of the game, and I don't know what his injury was, but what are your thoughts on that?
I know. See, I was having that same conversation. I was working the game last night with Bob Gucci, and we were talking about it's like he'd played 6 minutes through 2 periods. And if they get a power play in the third, does he slide out there? It sounded like maybe it was a growing injury, but I don't have confirmation on that as the People's Insider over here. I just think, would you elect to go with Kyle Connor, or you even had Tage Thompson in the wing? Do you want Matthew Tkachuk at 60% or probably even less than that? I mean, he only played 6 minutes, so 40%, or would you rather have a fully healthy, capable other body? I mean, the morale side of me, Shorzy, says, I want that guy in the locker room, but if he's only going to play 6 minutes, I might sit him out, man. I might have sat him out. And he's probably was telling the coaching staff, management, that it wasn't as bad as it probably was, or he thought. So it's tough. It's a tough move right there.
Yeah, I mean, clearly the guy's a warrior, and I think I'm taking him at 60% if he can play his normal shift. Maybe I'm taking him at 40% if he can play his normal shift. But it was obviously so bad or bad enough that he wasn't able to do that. But it's funny how many people are like Monday morning quarterbacking this event now. Like all these fucking people in the media talking about like this guy on the bottom 6 and that guy on the bottom 6. And I mean, at the end of the day, it was like a fantastic game. And your boy Binnington, I mean, stops the best goal scorer in the world kind of a few times in overtime, and it's a balance the other way. But man, what a game.
I know. Binner in TD Bank Garden just scared me, because the last time he won a closeout game there obviously was the 2019 Stanley Cup. Him going back in there, like he was okay, I would say, in Montreal. He found a little bit, I thought, against that game against Finland earlier in the week, but still was a little shaky coming down the stretch of that game. But in a closeout game, I was like, oh fuck, we might be in one here as on the US side. I thought after that Matthews goal didn't go in, like right in front of the net, that pass from Long Pencil Gensel, I was like, because Binner's one of those guys, he's such a momentum and like a heater guy, you know what I mean? Like when he rides those heaters, he gets in that zone, he's in that flow state where nothing's getting by him. And the probably the knack on him, or the knock is he might give up that squeaky one, but in a closeout game, I said I'm missing Curfew Shorzy. He's my number one goalie I want.
Yeah, it's funny. I don't know him, but I have so many mutual friends with him, like yourself, Garrett Wilson, Tyler Bozak. So I've gotten I feel like I indirectly know him a little bit. And he's the guy who the word gamer is built for a guy like him, right? Like he's probably not going to be your best goalie. He's not going to have the best stats during the regular season. But man, like you said, when he's on in a big moment, I mean, whether it's a game 7 on the road or even that game on the road or an Olympic game, like he's going to make the save. And I think that he showed that last night, and some guys just have the ability to be winners. And he clearly is one of those guys. And I mean, it sucked the Americans, but some of those saves he made in overtime were phenomenal. I think the 1-2 on the rebound, I think the one that Matthew shot from the slot and then he loved that rebound. I don't know who had that. It might've been Brady Tkachuk. Like
it was Brady, yeah.
On the goal line, I mean, it was insane. And credit to him. What an amazing performance and what a gamer.
Yeah, Jordan Chinnington. But how about, let's slide it back to the U.S. back end. First off, I want to start off with McAvoy. Now, McAvoy hurts his AC joint allegedly in that game against Finland. He kind of got cross-checked into the post. He probably got some sort of Toradol shot, something to maybe take the edge off it, okay? And then that ends up being an infection. So if you're the Boston Bruins and you're the management of that, now I think that's the story from what I'm told, but what a tough bounce for the Bruins, because they might lose McAvoy here for, 2-3 weeks or maybe even more time here, man. It's crazy. And I think in that game, they needed him, because if you saw that game in Montreal on Saturday night, just the way he was able to dummy McDavid. I've never seen McDavid get hit like that before, ever. And the way he was tossing around Crosby, so a couple other guys in front of the net, like McAvoy is a literal beast. I mean, he's the son of a plumber, so he's got that blue collar in him. But that guy, I don't think he gets enough credit. Sometimes I think fans, especially in Boston, they get on him a little bit, Shorzy. But, man, I love his game, and he's fucking nasty.
Yeah, I don't think I was giving him enough credit either. I mean, if you, like you said, that performance in Saturday night in Montreal, when I think he had 6 hits or whatever it was, 3 of them were against McDavid, 3 of them were against Sid or one of their other high-end players. I mean, he had that hit against McDavid along the wall, I think in the first period or something, that was kind of the momentum changer, and you could see that the U.S. rallied behind that. But he's definitely a guy, like, I didn't know that he could play that good defensively, I guess. You know what I mean? It's the best player.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that I have so much gained so much respect for his game watching him do that. But yeah, it sucks for the Bruins. And it's funny, you knew that someone was going to get injured in this tournament, unfortunately, and fan bases, the NHL, and we're going to be like throwing their hands up in the air. And I feel like it'll be interesting to see what happens with Tkachuk too, how long he's going to be out. But I think that that's just a bad bounce, especially if it is he got infection from some treatment or some shot, or I don't know what the story was.
Yeah, I just never see McDavid get hit like that. I mean, Chucky McAvoy kind of got walked a little bit in that first goal that McJesus did score, and then he turned around and he just started throwing the body up and out, pasting them to the boards. He dummied Sid in along the wall in the trapezoid, but I just thought he was great in that game, and is more so just his presence. And speaking of a presence, this Jacob Slavin kid. Now, he went to Colorado College, Shorzy. He's a local Denver kid, I believe, somewhere in and around the Denver area, if I'm not mistaken. He played for the Chicago Steel growing up in the USHL, and then obviously went to CC. But CC was so fucking bad the years I was there, and he was their only bright spot of that team. I didn't think he was that good at the time. I thought he was pretty good, but that game he played last night, he might be the best defensive defenseman in the entire league. Those blocks, his stick, his gap, his reads, it was godly, like, dude. And speaking of God, I think he is a lover of God, so it makes sense.
Yeah, I played with him in Carolina a little bit my last year when I was there, so I got to see it a little bit more personally on it, like up and close. And I think that he's just one of those guys who, what he's doing in that game last night is kind of what he was doing in college hockey, what he was doing as a kid. So he's never going to be a guy who's going to score 35 goals and rush it end to end, but man, he can defend. And I think that the Carolina Hurricanes have been so lucky to have him, especially he keeps signing those team-friendly long-term deals that, I mean, they have one of the best defensemen in the league locked in, I think, for another 7 years maybe. And, yeah, what a performance. I mean, just on the top of my head, Sid would have had an empty net if he wouldn't have turned around. And, that's a hard play to box a guy out.
Oh, yeah.
The puck. And then he also had that block on – I don't know.
Yeah, who was that diving block he had right in the slot that he blocked with his leg?
Yeah, and I mean, he's a great guy, does a ton for the community in Raleigh, North Carolina. But yeah, he's one of those guys who's kind of just played the same game his entire life. And I mean, he was phenomenal last night. It's nice to see him get kind of the credit he deserves from the national media.
He's a guy that's at least a $9 million defenseman. And he's playing for just under 6, maybe, I think it is, something like that, on a 7-year deal. One guy, though, I want to talk about on that back end. It might be a hot take, but I was watching the game last night, and I've been watching them for the last couple of years. Adam Fox. Now, listen, he is a good defenseman. He can move the puck. He is silky. But how the hell did this guy win a Norris? I know it was a shortened season that year. Shorzy, if I'm looking as a general manager and Adam Fox is my number 1 defenseman, I know we're in trouble. He was playing like a 5 or a 6 on that team. I would even say maybe Jake Sanderson stole the show, and I would play Adam Fox as my number 6 next year at the Olympics if he's on that team. Is that crazy to say?
No, I don't think so. And I think, too, it's weird when you slot guys into tournaments like this because, I mean, he's a very smart player. He can run a power play at the NHL level. But, if he's not going to run the power play for Team USA, which he's clearly not, it's then where does he fit in the lineup? And I think that one of the other players in their back end who I thought finally got some recognition because he plays in Columbus is Zach Werenski. I mean,
Silky.
this guy is so good. I think he might have led the tournament in either assists or scoring. He had 6 or 7 assists. But, I mean, he's a guy where if he plays in a big market, he's one of the faces of the league, and he's kind of just been buried in Columbus for a long time when they haven't been very good. But, man, what a player he was and what a performance.
Dude, I saw him coming through the jungle in Cleveland the year they won it. I think it was 2015-16. It was my rookie year. He had just played 1 year at Michigan, and he had signed with Columbus, and they're like, okay, you got to go get your time in here in the AHL to see how you do. You're going to go on a playoff run with the Monsters, and you'll play with them. I remember skating up to him. It was like game probably 74 of 76 in the jungle, and he was just flying around. I go up to him like, hey, fella, what are you doing in this league? You're way too good. And then just sure as shit, he just goes on an absolute run with the Cleveland Monsters. They end up winning the Calder Cup, and he was like a point per game player. But his glide is the biggest thing I noticed. When he's coming through the neutral zone, he doesn't really have to skate because his glide is so elite and his head is up the whole time. He's one of those guys, I think, obviously up for a Norris, but I think he should be up for a Hart this year, just what he's doing in Columbus based on the fact that he's willing that team to maybe make the playoffs. But yeah, just back to Fox. Like, I like his game, but I don't think he skates well enough, especially in a high-paced game like that. And I don't know, maybe even a Stanley Cup final. This game, obviously, a little bit more pace there, but doesn't have a ton of bite, and he's a little undersized. That's one I think we're going to look back on in like 10, 15 years and be like, wow, like he's a good defenseman, but it's pretty crazy he won a Norris. Like, to win a Norris, I don't think Adam Fox in the same sense is all I'm saying. Respectfully, of course.
Yeah, and I think that, too, when you talk about the pace, that's what made the game so fun. And, I mean, Drew Doughty, who's one of my brother's good friends, who's played in every big game in the world, was saying it was the fastest game he had ever been a part of. And I mean, if you think about it, the game is faster than it's ever been now. And these guys aren't playing 25 games in 35, 40 days like it is in the Stanley Cup. I mean, you saw that the pace of the game was insane. It
was nuts. And Jack Eichel was so good. He was over pucks. His stick was unbelievable. That play he had on the PK where he soaked one of his twig.
It was insane.
And that kick he had, like back to his defenseman, what a headsy play that was. I thought he was the best player on the Americans all night. And Matthews was good too. I think Matthews maybe playing a little banged up or sick or something. But I thought Ikes, besides 97, I thought Ikes was the second best player in that game.
Yeah, I thought that Eichel's another guy that it seems like he gets down the ice in like 4 strides. Like the way the way he skates, his stride is like so long and powerful that literally he takes like 4, like a couple times he turned it over and was hustling back and took like 4 strides and he was the first guy back. I thought he was phenomenal. And then, yeah, I mean, we talk about 34, but I think that he showed people he was defensively. I mean, I think he had 2 assists last night and obviously was doing what he does offensively. But on the defensive side, he made some high-end plays that he definitely is starting to look more Patrice Bergeron-like than he ever has earlier in his career.
Yeah, and I love him too. Maybe a missed assignment on that last goal, drifting a little bit. But again, I was a big drifter myself, and I played defense, so I can't really talk. But maybe on that 97 goal, a little bit of a drift there, a little driftwood fella. But yeah, no, he was good in the game. Mitchie Gritty Marner too on the Canadian side gets a lot of flack. Fuck, do people hate him? But man, that play he made to Bennett and then the dish, obviously, to 97. I mean, 2 apples for goals. Say what you want about the kid, he can dish the puck.
Yeah, I will say, like, too, there's so many people. It's funny because people were saying he was, like, quiet in the tournament game 2 after he scored literally the overtime winner. But, yeah, he probably had a stint there in the middle of the tournament where, for him, a guy who's one of the most talented players in the league, he was quiet. But, I mean, man, that play, like, being able to drag those guys at the middle, like you said, through all that traffic, too, because those back checkers were right there, too. You know what I mean? Like, it wasn't and that was kind of the point of the game, too, where even some of these guys, like, were trying not to make a mistake, right? You know what I mean? It's like a lot of guys were chipping a lot of pucks in. I mean, he gets the wall, gets the outside, doesn't chip it in, cuts to the middle, drags the forward over, and then what a finish by Sam Bennett. I played with Sam Bennett a bit in Calgary, but man, he's just what a player. I mean, he's a guy every team in the NHL would love to have, especially at his number, and as a guy who can play as hard as anyone in the league, and obviously has an ability to make some high-end offensive plays as well.
Yeah, Sam Bennett. I mean, you were probably playing with him at the time when he was, in Calgary. He was young, and they had to battle through the days of obviously Daryl Sutter And he was like a 25 to 30-point guy. And you're thinking, man, this guy 4th overall, like he didn't, he had a little bit of bite, but he didn't really kind of grow into that to the latter half of his days in Calgary. And then obviously became a full-on criminal when he moved down to Florida. I mean, that happens, right? A sunny place with some shady people. That just kind of par for the course. But if you're putting your agent hat on, super agent, what are you giving that guy on the open market? Is he like 7.5 all day, $8 million? Because fuck, I want him on my team.
Yeah, if I'm the GM of Florida, I'm trying to get that sunshine tax, take a little bit of a discount. Yeah, I mean, I would probably give him, if I was the GM of the team, I would like him at around 6.5, 7. If I was his agent, I'd maybe be asking for 8, 8.5.
Yeah.
I think that, like I said, I mean, he's those guys too. I thought Canada with their roster, when they changed their lines, if you look at like we talked about this, but all the best lines in hockey, you need a guy who's going to go to the net, who's going to forecheck, who can do all those things, but also has enough skill where he can finish plays. And he's the perfect example of one of those guys who, if you put him with 2 highly skilled guys, and he can be the F1 on the forecheck, he can be the guy who's going to the net, he can also be the guy who's sticking up for his teammates. I mean, he's kind of the perfect complementary player to be on any first line in the NHL. Yeah,
absolutely. Like we were saying, and I think all the coaches in the league, it's not a secret. You got to work in twos. You got to have pairs of guys, and then you have to have something in there that a little bit of an influx that you don't get with those 2 guys that like to play off each other. So he's one of those guys that, again, but he can play on your first, second, third, fourth line. It doesn't matter. I just thought with Canada, they're going back to the drawing board and maybe going into Milan next year with the Olympics. I think you got to have Tom Wilson on that team, and I think you either take off Jarvis or Konechny, because I thought those 2 guys were basically more or less the same player. Now, listen, they have different elements to their games, I think, but in a sense, Shorzy, a small right shot winger. I think you go with Tommy Wilson with a guy, even this year, 23-odd goals to start the year, a little bit more heavy, obviously. And I just think maybe if Tom Wilson's in that game on Saturday night in Montreal, McAvoy's not running around hitting McDavid like that, or at least if he is, someone's got to answer the bell.
Yeah, they won, so you can't look back and criticize their roster. But yeah, couldn't believe they left Tom Wilson off. If I was the GM of a team, I would try to have as many Tom Wilsons on it as I could possibly have. I mean, guys who are that big, that heavy, that skilled, fight, can do everything. And I think that, they ended up winning the tournament, but definitely, especially if he gets off to as good of an offensive start next year and is playing as well as he has this year, would be a guy I'd have on the roster.
Yeah, fuck, fighter, hold the light. He does all 3. I love Tommy Wilson's game. And I'm just thinking, one guy on that back end of Canada now, listen, these guys are all incredible players. But one guy I thought that maybe wasn't ready for the bright lights was Travis Sanheim. I think I would play Harley over Sanheim, and I would maybe look outside to, I don't know who it would be, but I just thought maybe, they were trying to groom this kid, Shorzy, obviously next year for the Olympics. I just thought, he was fine, but I thought Harley came in and almost kind of stole the show from him a little bit.
Yeah, Harley, well, first of all, what a phenomenal job he did. The guy was literally getting on a plane going to Mexico. Probably thought he was having 8 days with his girlfriend and his buddies to then mentally flying across the country and being thrown into that environment. He played great. The other thing too is, Pietrangelo and Theodore, right, are 2 of clearly guys who would have been in the top 6 who Canada was missing. Pietrangelo, cup champion, captain, guy who can play in all situations, probably would have played 25 minutes in that game last night, can just eat minutes. So that was a huge loss for Canada, not having him on the back end as well.
Yeah, Petro, and then I obviously Shea Theodore. So that maybe even slides Sanheim up, because I thought Harley, I just love that kid's game. I saw him in the American League coming up through Austin, Texas, makes his way into obviously the chin of the Big D. And Pete DeBoer loves this kid. He can skate. He can make passes. I like his game. He can play on a power play. I think he's still just scratching the surface of what he could be. So he's a young defenseman. I love watching there, especially in Dallas. But yeah, man, Theodore, what's the word on him? Is he out long term? I haven't really heard.
I think he broke his wrist.
Okay. Yeah.
And then, you're the people's insider.
Yeah. I don't know. I wasn't hearing much. I wasn't really asking around, sniffing around. Petro, though, an all-time play, just said, you know what, fellas, listen, I got 2 mugs. I've played 1,000 games. I'm good. I don't need to go to Montreal. I'm going to Turks.
Does he have an Olympic gold medal too? I think he does. Yeah, he does.
Yeah, he does. 2014, I believe.
Yeah.
He just said, I'm good. I'm good. Yeah, we're paying you $100K if you want. Yeah, $100K. Yeah, I'm good. You know what I mean? I got 100 right here. We're all set. That was a nail gun play. I was like, I love that. Sneaky kind of like it. I would have went But I'm just saying, if you're in that position, that's how you know you're doing okay, eh?
You know what's funny is I don't know him, but I've heard that he is one of the guys who, as a leader, has no problem standing right up to the coach or the GM when he wants to stick up for the guys. And he doesn't necessarily going out with the guys every day, but he's a guy when he's coming to the rink, he's got no problem telling the GM, owner, coach exactly how he feels and the way he thinks things should be done.
For sure. He's just one of those strong personalities. Like you said, he's not a guy that's going to be out crushing beers with you. He was never that guy. He knows that. But he's one of those guys that goes to bat for his dudes too. Like, for a while there in St. Louis, I think he liked me. So he was kind of, trying to keep me around, doing different things for me, helping me out. Just a good dude. I think they definitely miss him there. I think Dougie Strongarm has obviously done a great job in St. Louis, despite whatever happened with me. But at the same time, I think that's probably one they wish they had back with Petro, because Petro, man, he's just, I don't know if he has like ADD or what it is, but he just buzzes. Like, the guy does not get tired. Like, he's doing a bike test, he's not tired. He can play 30 minutes, he's not tired in a game. The guy, like, his motor, Shorzy, is, I think it's probably the best I've ever seen, especially on the back end.
Like I said, I think he eats at least 23, maybe 25 to 27. I mean, not including overtime, that would have been different. But yeah, I mean, he'll be a huge value add for them next year in Italy. Lastly,
on the Four Nations talk, I thought they should have done the whole time in Montreal. I forgot how good that city was. Oh my God. We went up there. We got there on Thursday. We stayed through Sunday. I was able to get out of there. A bunch of people got snowed in just because of the storms, but I forgot how cool that city was, man. If I was a hockey player still playing in the National Hockey League or wherever it was growing up, that's a spot that I'd want to play. It's like the cathedral of hockey, that Bell Center, Shorzy. And just the way the whole town is it just smells like championships. It smells like retired numbers. It smells like just guys that came in here and just, started this city on fire. That place, in terms of just purely hockey, I forgot how cool it was, man. It's awesome.
Yeah, I actually weirdly was drafted in Montreal. That's where my draft was. That's where I played my first NHL game. There was like a lot of weird first things that happened for me in Montreal. So, I mean, like you said, it's the mecca of hockey. I mean, the environment, you were there live. I wasn't there. I was just watching on TV. But, man, I couldn't imagine how loud. I mean, people were saying it's one of the loudest building they've ever been in.
Oh, it was insane. And we were sitting there literally right at center ice. The funny thing, too, is we were walking into the game. We were sitting in section 112 or 113. Trudeau was walking in. He was sitting in 112. So we're walking in. We're about to grab some beers. And Obi sees him out of the corner of his eye. And he starts chirping him. He's like, "Hey, Trudeau, fuck you. Fuck you, you pussy." So the whole game in our section, we had like 7 or 8 Secret Service guys just eyeing up the big fella because he had chirped Trudeau going into the game. And then I see him in between periods because he's sitting probably like 1 row down and 7 seats to the left. I see him and I go, "Hey, Trudeau." And the Secret Service guy looks back and I just go, "You big pussy." And I put it online. It was so funny. But like, that guy was sitting there. Like, you had all the stops. He was acting like he was the man of the people. You had Georges St. Pierre on the ice. It was crazy, man. Like, I thought the roof was going to blow off that building. It was the coolest hockey game I've ever been to. I was like, wow. Us, I like watching hockey. Regular season sometimes is a sleeper fest. Maybe turn it over to TNT with Kenny the Jet Smith and Charles Barkley and the boys and watch the association. But this game, it was fucking nuts, man. It was crazy. It was so good for hockey.
How many security guards do you think it would have taken to take down the big fella?
That's why I think they had about 7 of them. Because have you seen those paws? The big fellow would have been, he's not an easy out. I'll tell you that.
No, he's not. You're not getting him down on the ground very easily.
No, you're not getting the big fella down. And he's not going down without a fight either. So, yeah, I think that's probably why they loaded up the gun over there in our section, just right outside where you kind of, go into the concourse section. Yeah, there was probably 7 or 8 of them just eyeing up the big fella. It was hilarious, man. So, yeah, that's the city of Montreal, the restaurants, the old town. I walked around on that Friday. It was cold, but it was a bluebird, as we say. It was nice and sunny. So I walked around for probably 3-4 hours. It was awesome, man. So got to get back up there to the city of Montreal, the chin of Quebec. Shorzy, I want to talk a little bit lastly on the hockey part of it. Denver hockey, David Carl. Now, David Carl is your boy. David Carl is our boy. We got a group chat with this guy. All he does is win. And now we're looking into the stretch run of the season. We're coming into, maybe the last dance per se with DC over at Denver. Obviously, the team has been unbelievable this year, but do you think they can repeat? And is this the last we see of DC in a college atmosphere for a while?
Well, I think they can repeat because they hands down the best coach in college hockey running the show. I think that will they repeat? I mean, the tournament, it's so tough, right? It's one game elimination.
Yep.
I mean, last year their goaltender was phenomenal when he needed to be, and they're going to need that again. I do think this is the last time we see him. I think he's proved enough, especially at the World Junior level now, where one of these smart NHL teams is going to speak to their owners and convince them to open up their checkbook and kind of say, what do you want? What's it going to take to get you here? And they're going to get a deal done. But I do know he loves DU. He's super loyal to them, even to the point where he's way more loyal, I know, in the past. And I think he probably should have been or deserved to be, just personally as his friend. And I love DU too, but clearly want what's best for him first. And I do think that this is the last time we see him behind a college hockey bench.
So I'm not trying to dox my brother because we haven't even talked about this at all. But is there a world where Ryan Smith comes in and says, you know what, DC, you're our guy in Utah. Andre Turgeon, you've had a good run. There's nothing against you. I just think that the vibe, the energy, the culture, the young stud coach linking up with Ryan Smith to this new franchise with a lot of young talent and prospects makes a ton of sense. And that's a spot I think they could grow together in terms of the team and the coach. In a world, Shorzy, do you see that happening at all? Because I just think at the top of my head, I think that's a really good fit. And also it sets up DC for a team potentially to be competitive sooner than saying go into a spot like Buffalo.
Yeah, I think that there's probably 5 or 6 of those teams that could be really good fits. Like you said, Utah. I think that Ryan Smith seems like a guy. I mean, I know you're boys with him. I'm not boys with him. But he seems like a guy who wouldn't be afraid that he hasn't coached an NHL game yet. I think that he'd be a guy who seems open-minded enough that he would do that. I know that for Carl, too. I mean, Carl, let's talk about this. Like, he's making really good money at DU. Like, these college coaches have so much more leverage now. I mean, like, if you're an American League coach really good, you're taking any NHL job you can get just to move up. But he's kind of provided himself where he has the ability to kind of think on, I mean, the money has to be right, the city has to be right, and then most importantly, the team has to be right. So, I mean, there's a team that has a lot of prospects, and I know that as a competitor, that's going to be huge in his decision. But yeah, I mean, any team where I think they could grow together would be a great fit.
Yeah, I just think that spot is even the landscape of the family portion of it. You got the mountains, Denver, Utah. I mean, I would say Salt Lake City ain't Denver, but it's comparable in a sense of it's kind of the same lifestyle. And I just think DC with a team like that, and especially an owner like that, I think that it could really line up to be something. Now, I haven't heard anything on that front. I really haven't, either with Smitty or anyone in Utah. But I just think, even with the hockey club, say they don't make the playoffs, which they probably won't this year, a fresh start. You don't want to see a guy like Turgeon lose his job. But I think that was kind of the message that Ryan Smith had sent to all those guys. Let's do 1-year deals. Let's take it year by year. We'll give you basically a 12-month tryout and see what we can do here. So, hey, maybe they might need a GM. Maybe they can call you, maybe we can get you a deal. Maybe,
I do know that, well, first of all, I'd love if you called Ryan Smith and got me a deal. I do know that part of Carl going there would be like hanging on if they give Nick Schmaltz his bag. And if they do not end up giving Nick Schmaltz his bag, I know that there's no chance he will end up coaching there.
Yeah, I'm going to text Billy Armstrong right after this and say, what do you think? Eight times 8.5? What, is it gone up to 9 yet? Is the cap's going up, Billy? The cap's going up. What do you think here, fella? What can we get him?
The cap's going way up, and as we both say pretty frequently, the price of something today is what?
Well, yesterday's price ain't today's price.
Today's price, baby. Yep.
It ain't. I just had a call with a tequila seltzer company for Hockey Night in Scottsdale. I said, look, I'll send you my pitch deck, but today's price, it's going up. Yesterday's price ain't today's, and today's ain't tomorrow's. So, boys, if you want to do a deal, I'd advise you, let's get it done sooner than later. It's not a threat. It's not a threat. It's nothing personal.
Especially with the curve you're on. I mean, every day it's getting more expensive. I think all these brands should be calling, getting in now before they can't afford it.
It's like Microsoft, baby, in 02. It only going up. Shorzy, lastly, we got to talk association, my friend. We got to talk NBA All-Star. Now, they got body bagged. It's no secret.
Fucking killed.
It's no secret they got body bagged by the Four Nations, but I think we all expected that. My only thing with the NBA All-Star Weekend, listen, I love All-Star Weekend. It's all the players play, the pimps come out, it's the ladies, it's the looks, it's, it's the ambiance more than the actual game. But if you're LeBron James and you're looking at a guy like Devin Booker, who was somehow left off that All-Star game, which was complete bullshit in my eyes, even though the Suns stink this year, he should be there. If you're a fan of LeBron James or you're a fan of the league, don't you think that was a bullshit play by LeBron to announce that he wasn't going to play in the game hours leading up to it? He knew the whole time he wasn't going to play, man. Don't give me that. He said he's been nursing this ankle injury his whole career, is how he put it. And he shows up and he stays in the street clothes. I just think, knowing people that are connected with Devin Booker, and especially knowing Mel Booker, man, he was upset about that, not making that game. That just an accolade, right? Like that kind of pissed him off. 25 points a game, this and that. And LeBron essentially takes away a spot from a dude like that because, he doesn't want him to have it, or he just wants to hold his ground. Like, he knew he wasn't going to play for sure.
Yeah. I mean, I love the NBA too. I think that they did get body bagged just pretty much from everyone about this game. I think that LeBron has, he's played so many games over the last 25 years that he's clearly capable. By the way, this game is a joke for him. I mean, he could be out. I mean, guys were walking up and down the floor. So you're like, what I'm saying in this is, like, LeBron could have easily walked on the floor for fucking 10 minutes, shot in 5 or 6 threes, and participated in the game a little bit without causing any, stress on his ankle.
Yes.
So that's kind of where I'm coming from, especially a guy, like I said, I mean, he's played in the finals 7-8 years in a row, where I'm sure he was really banged up for a lot of those games. So he's clearly a guy who can play through it if he wants to play through it. And I'm not even asking him to play through it. I'm trying to walk up and down the floor because the game was pathetic. They need to do something. I do think that they got so much pressure from this that I've heard they might go one-on-one for cash next year, which I think would be super cool. I mean, how some of those guys, like, watching them play one-on-one for big cash, I think would be awesome. And I think that it almost this year was so bad, it was like, okay, fuck it, we need to blow it up and come up with a new format because it's not working. And I think that long-term, it was good. I did like Ball's halftime performance. I mean, that song he dropped was an absolute banger. I think that was probably the highlight of the whole thing. That's kind of how I feel.
You know how many times I've swerved and bent that corner over the last month? It's insane, dude. That's all I've been doing.
I mean, the song is just so good. I probably listened to it 500 times. But I mean, good for this guy, though. I mean, he's kind of like the brother who didn't make it of the whole crew. And then I think he got like a $13 million record deal after that song dropped. And it was one of the most popular songs going. Yeah,
8 guaranteed. Dude, when I heard that and saw him swerve and bend that corner like that and then got that bag, I honestly thought, shit, do I have to get in the studio? Do I got to start spitting bars? Is that what it's going to take? Does the peoples need to get in the studio and start cooking?
I mean, I had Darren Waller on Betting the Limit yesterday, and he's in the studio cooking now. So I think that the People's Insider could be next.
That would be so sick, man, to get on a track and drop them bars. Hey, what's your bro saying? What's little Nicky? Is he coming back soon, or are they on a playoff run over there? I saw their team. They weren't doing great, no, from last I saw.
No, they're not doing great. It's really weird, not to bore people, but there's a format basically where the top 8 teams make the playoffs. Then teams 9 and 10 get to go home 2 or 3 weeks earlier, and then the bottom 2 teams have to play out. So there's about 8 or 9 games left. I want him home selfishly as soon as possible. So I would love if he finished in that sweet spot where he gets to come home earlier. They can still make the playoffs. It's the 3-point format, so that's capable. I know he's trying to make the playoffs. But yeah, I'm ready to personally have him home and get him on the golf course.
Any more Aspen trips left for the year? We Aspened out.
Oh, yeah. There definitely will be some more Aspen. There's Kygo. They have a huge music festival. They're selling I actually got a picture last night. Inside the festival, they're selling tequila sodas and waters for $41
that's a steal.
Yeah, that's a steal in Old Aspen. So, I will definitely be back there. The spring skiing there is pretty good. And as you know, it's quite the place to spend some time and snap it around.
You can ski there till what? Maybe May 1st on a good year?
Yeah. But I mean, the snow gets really bad. Like last year, there was a time where we went up late where only half the runs were open. But I mean, it's still so nice. The sun's out. You're in a t-shirt, sleeve shirt skiing, and you're still at Ajax Tavern at the end of the day. So it's a pretty good day.
How are you? Yeah, man, I got to get there or Jackson Hole. I got to get Jackson Hole's actually not too far from Salt Lake City, so I might slide up there. And I love that place, steep and deep, fella. It's that mountain that she barks. It's tough. All right, Shorzy, I'm gonna let you go, fella. I appreciate you popping on, chopping it up. Four Nations Talk, reoccurring guest, friend of the show over here at Live in 5. It's always good to chop it up with you, man. Great conversation as always. What do you got on the weekend here? You just gonna hang out with the fam, chill out? Off the piss?
Well, dude, thanks for having me on. I tell people all the time, and I mean, I'm not just saying this to pump your tires. You are the funniest person in hockey media by far, and the game needs more people like you running the show. I'm just gonna hang out. I've been gone for 3-4 days. Yeah, I'm gonna spend time with the kids. Everyone in my fucking house was sick forever. Now everyone's better, so we can finally get back in the mix. So probably spend some time with my daughters, play some tennis, be a dance dad, and have a good weekend.
Yeah, we still got to line up our tennis match, by the way. Maybe we get some camera guys on that for content, a little betting the limit.
You're in trouble on this. I do see this. I'm anytime. I'd love to. I actually owe. I did some deal with Joe Colburn, and I owe him a trip down as a result of it, as kind of a one-day celebratory party. And so I'm due for a trip down there. But let's schedule a match.
Let's do it, baby. I was just hitting with my coach yesterday. I was working on my backhand. My forehand's crispy. My backhand,
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I chop a lot of my backhand. It's not great.
Yeah.
And if I would love to be able to just snap a backhand down the line across court, but I just I can do it periodically. But if we play in a match, I'll be slicing on my backhand the majority of the time.
I know. I'm so down. I'm digging Emma Navarro, Emma Sneaky 7 Navarro. I'm on my knee, kind of getting it over. I wish I just had that Feds where you could just flick it. One hand. Are you kidding me? Nasty.
By the way, you know this. I laugh at a lot of your shit, but your sound bit on calling Jake Gensel a low maintenance girlfriend had me fucking crying. I think that might have been a top 5 thing you've ever said. I literally, because by the way, it was just such a good analogy, and it's just, I mean, he's such a good player, and he's so good at playing with those superstar players, and it's weird because he's not the biggest guy, he's not the fastest guy, he doesn't have the hardest shot, but man, this guy, I mean, he won so many cups with Sid. Then he's doing it at this stage, and I mean, that was pretty fucking creative.
Yeah, I was sitting there with, I'm not trying to name drop, but we were sitting there. It was me, Obes, the Real Rocket Talkit, and John Cooper. We were sitting there just having one before those guys were going to dinner, and then we were going to get pinned. And we were sitting there on Friday night before the game with them, and Obes is like, well, look at this. Who's this Gensel guy, Coop? How does he make 9 and a hook in Tampa Bay? How's he playing with the best players always? He's playing with Sid. He's with Kucherov, and Cooper's like, well, he's a son of a coach. He makes no mistakes. He's always there. He can bury. And I'm like, boys, this Gensel's like a low maintenance girlfriend. You go out all night, you run around, you can do your thing. You come back and she's just spread eagle for you. She doesn't ask where you were. She's just down to get down and score. She, you can go all over the place. You don't have to text her. You don't have to call her. She's just always going to be there for you. And Coop looks at me and he puts his drink down. He goes, that's a fucking analogy. You're so right. I'm going to use that. I'm like, fella, People's Insider here. How you doing? So, yeah, that was cool.
Best coach in the world, taking lines from People's Insider. Not surprising, but no, I enjoyed that. That was pretty good.
Yeah, that was good shit. All right, brother, I'll let you run. Thank you for popping by Live in 5. Obviously, reoccurring guest. Welcome anytime. We'll chop it up here soon. Fella.
Hold on. Get with that tennis coach. I'm fucking coming. Let's go.
All right, baby. Let's do it.
All right, later.
Peace. All righty, folks. That was Drew Shore from Betting the Limit. NHL veteran of 99 hockey games over a 8-year career, but always good chopping up with Shorzy, beauty, good dude, doing good things in media. Also an agent, super agent, came under and studied under Juddy Moldiver. You might have heard of him. He's also a friend of the program over here, Wasserman Sports Finest. But no Azo today. Azo actually had to do a bunch of different things with the company of mini movers. A bunch of guys calling in sick, calling in hung after that Four Nations game. So Jay Swish just going solo dolo today. And you know what? Sometimes you got to go solo. Han Solo, Hope Solo. So thank you for tuning in to Drew Shore. And we'll be back next week with a normal program over here at Live in 5. But we wanted to give our initial reactions with sit-in co-host Drew Shore, friend of the program, obviously, who's swerving and bending that corner, bruh. I want to give you at least something for the weekend, something you can take into your Friday, Saturday, Sunday shift. And that's the People's Insider Term of the Week. And this week's People's Insider Term of the Week is hook. Now, listen, hook can be mistaken for a professional, maybe a lady you scratch off the side of the pavement outside of Squid Row in Cabo, Mexico. But that's not what I'm talking about here, folks, because hook is a term used to add a little luggage onto something. So when someone says, for example, hey, how far do we have left in this road trip? Maybe you're sitting on the bone rattler, maybe you're sitting in the car, but someone asks, hey, fella, how much longer do we have on this trip? Well, 2 and a hook. And 2 and a hook would mean somewhere over 2 hours. A little more meat on the bone. I don't have an exact number for you, but it has a hook on it. Similar how a line in fishing has a hook. Well, a lot of different things have a hook as well. Another example would be, what's the spread in that game on Sunday? You're talking the National Football League, maybe a college game. Oh, it's 7 and a hook. So 7.5. There's always that little bit of hook, a little more, if you will, a little more cleavage. So when I say hook and I say, what does that mean, Swish? Well, hook is just adding a little baggage onto something, whether you're talking about how much time you have, a bet, a line, not a line you snort, but just a line in general. So a hook just means you add a little bit more to it, folks. So hook can be used in a lot of different things. Maybe you're on the golf course and you ask, what's the number? What do you got on that rangefinder there, fella? 2 and a hook. So 205 stock 6 iron. So that, my friends, is the People's Insider Term of the Week. Folks, that was episode number 77, I believe, across the goddamn chin. Drew Shore, live reactions to the game this week. Thank you, Shorzy, for popping on. Again, Ozzo back next week. People's Insider, going to have myself a weekend. Folks, I'm going over to Fall Out Boy tonight. It is Friday night. It's actually at the Innings Fest. The Innings Fest is something they put on in and around spring training. And spring training is in full force down here. So they set up this park in Tempe, right on the canal, kind of outside the ASU campus, and it's great. I saw the Red Hot Chili Peppers there last year. The Killers are here on Saturday. Next week, the Lumineers are in town. So there's a lot of good guests, a lot of good acts. The guy that puts it on, Timmy Sweetwood, a.k.a. Sweet Tits, is a beauty. So if you're ever around AZ or you're thinking about coming to Arizona, come around this time, because it's not crazy busy. Spring training's just starting up, and this Innings Fest is sneaky, sneaky good. It's a lot of good performers, a lot of good artists. So if you're going to want to check it out, go to Innings Fest. And next week is obviously Extra Innings Fest. It's a great production. The venue's cool. They just throw it up for 2-3 odd weeks, and they let it buzz, fella. Folks, thank you for tuning in. I got no voice. I've done about 9 podcasts this week. We did a 4-hour stream last night, but you know what? Rule number 76, no excuses. Play like a champion. Check out the chin hats at HockeyNightScottsdale.shop. Obviously, Butter Golf Mini Movers, the official sponsors over here at Live and 5. Have yourself a weekend, fellas. Stay crispy, stay low and slow, and if you're drinking, do it responsibly. Keep it under 30. 93.1 DJ Swish over here in the Valley. Checking out, checking in, check cheddar like a food inspector. We out. Woo!